Good morning, Ratman. I'm your host, died in glorious battle, Che, and joining me is my co-host, Corgi, who died after rolling her ankle and hitting her head on a rock.
Oh, canon.
Did you ever watch Shogun?
No, we didn't.
Oh, there's a character who died after slipping and hitting his head on a rock, and like a main supporting character. And my point of that is I could win a fight with anything if you give me a rock. It's nothing I could lose a battle against.
Except a rock.
Oh yeah,
Or a
no.
rat
If it's a
in the
rock
kitchen.
against a rock, then that's two rocks, and they cancel each other out
Yeah, and then how are you going to win rock, paper, scissors? By nuking him.
with paper.
Oh.
Today's episode is brought to you by rats, a 100% natural protection against all diseases such as the plague.
But not against the warp stones, because that's where you find them. Like weird little bugs. They're like moths to lamps, but to warp stones.
So two things before we start. I know I said I'd be doing fortnightly releases, and obviously it's currently being weekly. The thing is that I have a real job, so I planned fortnightly because it would hopefully work within my work schedule. However, when I was just about to start work with a client, I got a call that the start date had been pushed back pending government approval, which, as we all know, governments are the paragon of speed. So I have an awful lot of free time on my hands, so we'll be going weekly until the government approves some documents, which last time was around 2 months.
Well, what if I have something to do? You never know, I might be a busy lady.
You never have anything to do.
No, I don't.
And secondly, last week I said next episode would be Lovecraftian and 40k, and then we would mostly be covering 40k moving on, forward. However, I've changed my mind on that. I would be remiss as a smaller channel to not capitalize on the boost in interest of the release of 4th edition. So this week we will be covering the Stormcast Eternals, and then I bought into my own hype and pre-ordered the Skaventide box set, which will be, by the time this episode releases, will be out. So then the following week we'll be covering the new lore in 4th edition. And then moving forward we will be alternating between fantasy, be it Old World or Age of Sigmar, and 40k on a fortnightly model. It'll be one each per month. If we get to the point where we're doing weekly, it'll be 2 each a month.
So, Stormcast Eternals.
So,
all I can think about them is, from the 2 images you've sent me, is they just look like the Alliance, but electric. And I'm talking the Alliance from World of Warcraft.
you keep referencing a franchise I have never played.
Come on, man. That's like the basic level. It's like, oh, the 2 factions, Alliance, Horde,
I've seen the
technically also
Warcraft
Legion.
movie.
which doesn't even count. Come
I
on,
watched the
man.
Warcraft movie in theaters.
Why would you ever do that?
I knew some people at the time who were big into World of Warcraft, and
And yet you still didn't figure out, hey, Alliance is the blue and gold people, Horde is the red and green.
it was a decent enough movie. Anyway, so some of this will be treading ground that we discussed in the previous episodes. This is a mixture of sort of, the standard how their structure works, and then just their history and up until quote unquote current day. But we'll start with who the fuck Sigmar is, because he's kind of like important to the whole Stormcast Eternals.
Yeah, who the hell is Sigmar? Is he like Alpharius?
You
I fucked that up.
gotta move on from Alpharius and
I
Omega.
never
It's the
will.
only thing you know, and you bring it up every single time.
Because it's just a constant run of I'm Spartacus, and I love that.
So, Sigmar Heldenhammer, which is his full name, was the first king of the Empire in the Old World, and was a normal human being. And then a real quick synopsis is he fucked off to nowhere and disappeared. Eventually an imperial cult built up around him and worshipped him as a god, and that's cult in the traditional sense. Then a guy called Volton showed up towards end times, who looked like Sigmar, acted like Sigmar, and had a birthmark of Sigmar's sigil. So Emperor Karl Franz and most of the other... One guy was a prophet, and most of all the other cult of Sigmar religions just treated him like he was Sigmar. And then he got murked by a Vermin Lord while fighting Archon the Everchosen. Archon the Everchosen, he's a whole thing. He's still around in Age of Sigmar.
Uh-huh.
Then Sigmar, then the world ended. Old world ended. And then...
And then Age of Sigmar began.
Yeah, so... the Age of Sigmar is sort of like the title thing, but the Age of Sigmar specifically refers to a specific point in history. There are the different ages, and there's the Age of Myth, the Age of Chaos, and now we're in the Age of Sigmar. But, so the Mortal Realms is sort of like the term. There was the Old World, and now there's the Mortal Realms, which is the 8 realms on top of each other. So, during the Age of Myth, Sigmar was found adrift, clinging to the core of the world that was, which is the term for the Old World. It's exploded ruins. And he was found by a dragon god called Dracotheon. Dracotheon taught Sigmar the Mortal Realms and how they worked. Sigmar then went and did storm god shit, chilling with mortals, helping them out, finding other gods, creating a pantheon, killing other gods that he was like, these guys are fucking pricks and shit. Which started a golden age. Everything was great and lovely and everyone was happy. And then Chaos showed up and fucked everything up. Actually, before Chaos showed up, the Pantheon of Order, as it was called, which was Sigmar's pantheon that he founded, started getting like petty and fighting each other and sort of gradually fell apart. Like Nagash used to be a member of the Pantheon of Order. He was the god of death, but then he decided that being the god of the god of death of the Pantheon of Order meant he was entitled to the souls of all of the mortals that existed that worshipped the gods of the Pantheon, but the elven gods specifically didn't like that and kept stealing their souls from Nagash, which caused him to rebel and fuck off. And
well, I'd be pissed off too. That's my fucking job, man.
Yeah, they kept just like resurrecting the elves.
Why do they keep bringing back the elves? The elves aren't shit. They're chumps.
Yeah, there's some interesting elves.
Wait, so hang on. Who was the one that looked like Sigmar?
Valten. He was Sigmar sort of reborn in a mortal form. At least that's what's implied. His death was what brought back... It doesn't really explain how Sigmar went from being a mortal who was dead, who was worshipped, and then kind of reincarnated in Volten, to then just straight up becoming a god in between the destruction of the world and the mortal realms. There are a lot of characters that did that. They were mortal and then they became gods, and it doesn't really explain how they came from one point to the other.
So he just fucking decided, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna be god. Fuck you.
Yeah, so then the Age of Chaos started, and Chaos took over for every realm except Aesir. Sigmar's primary weapon is a warhammer forged by dwarves called Galmaraz, which is where the name Warhammer comes from. As a
Galmaraz?
Yeah, Galmaraz.
That's such a stupid name.
It's a dwarf name.
Still stupid.
But, yeah.
It's like, this is my mighty weapon, Razzmatazz. Like, what the fuck? How's that supposed to be intimidating?
Oh, it's probably
unless you're in the fucking
like
theater
Galmaraz rather than Razzmatazz. It's kind of the emphasis. Like, if you go Razzmatazz, it's not as Razzmatazz.
It's still fucking stupid.
I mean, it's dwarf. Get used to it. Grungni starts showing up eventually.
Oh, that's also dumb.
So, then, as the Age of Chaos tore through everything, Sigmar put up a fight, lost, and then retreated and just watched it all happen. He wasn't particularly happy about it, and he specifically watched for humans who fought till, like, the end, whether it be, like, actively fighting in battle, or they just refused to bow to Chaos until they were eventually, like, executed and shit. Like, they didn't have to necessarily physically fight, so it wasn't just soldiers and kings, but also, like, doctors and hermits and priests. And then, just as they were about to die, he just shot down some lightning and yoinked their souls. And he also just yoinked souls of long-dead people who were in the afterlife from Shaish, which is the realm of the dead, which is where Nagash chills.
So Shaish.
Yeah. This This led to Shaish being invaded by chaos, and was not, like, Shaish, mortal people live, but so do the dead, and the dead usually protect the mortal people, and they were doing a very good job at keeping chaos out, and were mostly, like, defending themselves against the Age of Chaos. Then Sigmar yoinked all of their best soldiers, and then chaos just ripped through them. So that's led to the people of Shaish being really pissed off with Sigmar. They fucking hate him, and they still hate him to this day. He really fucked them over. So then the souls then go through the cans of tempering and have to pass 7 tests, which doesn't say what they are, but if they then succeed that, the souls are then torn apart and rebuilt on the Anvil of Apotheosis, which is an altar built from the parts of Malice, which is the core of the world that was, by the Six Smiths, who are 6 dwarven gods that Sigmar has recruited to create the Stormcast Eternals.
So they get their fucking souls changed just because they pass some tests?
Yeah, so they don't have mortal bodies at this point. He doesn't take their entire body, he just takes their souls. And then their souls are reforged and seemingly given physical form, or at the very least put in armor.
To possess, probably.
Well, they do have, like, skin. Like, they can take off helmets and stuff, and their armor. Stormcast Eternals, much like the Space Marines, are functionally demigods. There's even, like, the meme name that they are the Sigmarines.
Ugh, that is so great, and I hate it.
But yeah, so as I said in previous episodes, they can't die. When they do die, they explode, and their soul goes back up to Aesir to be reforged. So they just constantly are reforged again and again and again. And it's not a great life. They're not particularly happy people, because they just exist to fight and die and fight and die and fight and die. And it's a constant battle to push back the forces of chaos, and then the forces of death and the forces of destruction. So they don't have any time to relax. They're just constantly fighting. And it's not like the Space Marines where they're, like, kind of genetically designed to do that.
They're just normal people.
Yeah, these are people. These are normal people who are now forced to do nothing but fight. But, like, reforging also, like, slowly picks away at their souls every single time they die. So, like, the solution obviously is just, like, get good, don't die. But, it's not great. But, like, there are side effects to this. And the battle tome only listed 3 side effects. The Lexicanum had, like, more or less the full list. So the full list is memory loss, identity loss, emotion loss, scars, obsession with traditions from their mortal life aimed at countering other losses of memory and personality, lightning crackling from their eyes when furious, thunder rumbling under their words when speaking, powerful destructive impulses, unable to accept failure, striving to achieve victory, ignoring its costs, celestial visions, blazes of crackling lightning around their heads, celestial energy in their fists when furious, nimbus-like halo, lambent celestial light from the chinks in their armor, radiant light from the body that purifies chaos corruption, blood that purifies chaos corruption, abandonment of every strategy and lost to the sole power of rage and hate, unable to speak above a whisper, corpse paleness, hair bleaching, skin of steel, light trailing when they charge into battle, blue flames trailing when they charge into battle, tangible aura of wrath, smoky footprints, monochromatic view of good and evil, intent perception, wisps of amethyst energy around their body, tendency to collect items from the innocent dead to remember people who have been unjustly claimed by war.
Jesus Christ.
Some of those aren't necessarily bad things. Some of them are kind of cool.
Sad.
Some of them aren't great.
A lot of them are sad.
I
kidding me? Just like trying to feel human through the people they killed?
I wouldn't mind having thunder rumbling under my words when speaking, or smoking footprints,
I
or
would. I can barely hear you as is.
blue flames trailing when charged into battle. That would
Okay,
be
that one is
cool.
kind of cool.
But also,
Yeah,
like,
if only we went to battle.
light that purifies chaos corruption and blood that purifies chaos corruption. Probably very useful mutations to have. But this sort of leads them to becoming functionally living weapons as they slowly, like, lose their identity and forget who they are and their emotions and stuff. And really pissed if anyone shows the slightest disloyalty to Sigmar. And at one point in time, murdered 3/4 of a city because they just perceived that they weren't loyal enough.
Oh, great. It's a cult.
Yeah, but that's rare. It like really establishes that's rare. That doesn't happen often. The whole murder most of a city. But it does lead to a lot of people not really trusting the Stormcasts, because you can't really guarantee that they're not going to just all of a sudden go crazy and kill everyone.
It's like once you burned once, fucking good luck. They gotta keep trying to kill you.
Remember how I said that I didn't know what realm gates were, and I didn't know how they functioned? Mm-hmm. So now I know what realm gates are and how they function. They come up a lot. Realm gates were created by the Old Ones, which the Old Ones are a whole thing, and we'll get into them when we cover Seraphon, because they're basically like the gods of Seraphon, but they also have strong ties into 40k. They were originally the same Old Ones. Now they're two different sets of Old Ones, but they're real, like, very similar in, like, origin and the like. They created the realm gates to use them to travel between the realms.
Yeah, well, sounds about right. It's not like you're gonna use them to go shopping.
Yeah, but no one knows how many realm gates there are or where they're all located, and it was a whole thing where people tried to count them and map them, and it was so impossible that people started going mad doing it, and
Such as cartography.
Yeah, some of the most valuable, like, items that you can, like, purchase in the mortal realms are maps of the realm gates that they have been able to, like, because some people got, some of the information down, because it's not just like where they are, it's where they go to, because it's not a guaranteed location. Like, they'll go to the same place, right? Mm-hmm. Every time. So you can use them to jump between all these different places, but you can't, like, enter one and go, actually, I want to go to this location instead. But they'll, like, portal out through the realms and stuff.
Yeah.
When the Age of Chaos happened, Chaos corrupted a lot of the gates, making them instead go to the realms of Chaos. So if you go through a Chaos corrupted gate, you're just in Chaos now. That sucks. The realms of Chaos also aren't one of the 8 realms. It's its own little realm. The Slann, who are the leaders of the Seraphon and are giant toads, and were created by the Old Ones.
Sorry. Giant toads called the Slann.
Yep. One of them is literally dead, but he just refuses to die. So he is in a rotting corpse that just continues to do stuff.
That's fucking dedication.
Yeah, they're like, oh no, Lord Croak died. And he went, oh no, I've died. What if I didn't though? And just continued to stay alive.
So his body's decomposing, but his spirit is strong.
Yeah, hold up. I'll send you a picture of Lord Croak.
Oh, his name is actually Lord Croak?
Yeah. He's clearly mummified. They've wrapped him up and mummified him. And he's still just...
That's fucking epic, though.
Doing stuff.
He's a toad mummy!
Yeah. Apparently the Slann don't need... or not the Slann, the Seraphon.
Are they in any way related... Are the Slann in any way related to the Slaanesh?
No.
Okay, it's just a coincidence.
Yeah. So the Seraphon don't need realm gates. Apparently they also don't need realm gates. So the Seraphon exist within the orders of the Pantheon of Order, right? Or the faction of Order. There are 4 factions, right? There's Chaos, Order, Death, and Destruction. Seraphon exists in Order, but they have this sort of mutual alliance with everyone, but they're very much doing their own thing. They've got their whole own thing going on, and they will align with humans, dwarves, and elves because they are also opposing chaos, but they are working for two separate goals, where the Slann are working to fulfill the goals of the old ones, and everyone else is working to destroy chaos.
Uh-huh.
But because chaos, specifically them having the realm gates, poses a threat to the Slann, and the Slann don't need them, they just started using magic to seal them permanently. So chaos couldn't use them. They just went, fuck you. We don't need them. Fuck everyone else. Because they just realized, chaos is going to fuck them up.
Oh, yeah.
So, every single realm has a singular gate called an archway that leads to the all points, which is sort of like its own sub-realm that connects all archways. So, you go through the archway, and then you're in the all points, and you can go through any door in the all points. Each archway, both within the all points and in the realm that it exists in, is guarded by massive fortresses because they are the most sought after realm gate.
Is tickling my art brain.
There's a lot of fortresses. There's a whole section about fortresses.
Oh, delicious.
So the gates for Akshai and Gyron are controlled by the Stormcast Eternals. So the archway for Charmon is controlled by Chaos, and they used to control the archway for Gur, but lost control of it to the Orcs. However, the Orcs don't control the gate, as the gate for Gur is in the mouth of a giant worm that moves throughout Gur, and Chaos just
fucking cool.
Chained it down, and the Orcs broke it free. The archway for Shaish is controlled by the forces of death, and everyone who has been sent to secure the gate for Olgu disappear, so no one knows what's up with it. It might be controlled by an unknown fifth party.
Fifth?
Yeah, so...
Oh, right, yeah, the fourth. Never mind.
Everyone who goes there disappears. No, they're never heard from again. So Olgu is the realm of shadows.
That explains it. Oh, maybe it's run by the Shadows gave him.
Eshin, so there was a bit you didn't hear that I added an addendum. Most people think that the Eshin are based in Olgu, but once again, everyone they send to go find out just dies.
Or disappears.
Yeah, well that's it. They disappear. They've sent out thousands. The Master Clan has sent out thousands of spies into Olgu to find if the Eshin are there, and they never hear back from any of them again. But there also just, in general, seems to be something up with Olgu, because anyone who sends anything to Olgu all just disappear. So, the archway for Azir was sealed by Sigmar during the Age of Chaos, so no one could enter. However, there are gates in the mortal realms that were opened at the beginning of the Age of Sigmar, connected directly to Azir, so Sigmar could launch his invasion through it. So there are gates that lead to Azir. It is possible to just walk into heaven through the gates. So Stormcast's main base are Stormkeeps, which are enormous fortresses that they build around realm gates, and this massive amount of protection leads to cities being built around the fortresses themselves, so they become these sprawling metropolises. Stormkeeps will be built anywhere there is a realm gate, and are amazing works of construction, right? Because realm gates sort of show up wherever they show up. So no matter how hard there is, how hard it is, they will build a Stormkeep there. So one was listed as being in a bottomless chasm. It's just an endless pit, and somewhere in there is the realm gate. So the Stormcast built keeps along the walls down the chasm, surrounding the realm gate. So Stormkeeps contain star bridges, which...
Star bridges?
Yeah, so the process of a Stormcast Eternal dying and their soul returning to Azir is a very long and slow process. Star bridges, on the other hand, just yoink the soul and launch it into Azir with very fast speed. and is the sole reason they're able to replenish so quickly. Without the star bridges, it would take way too long to reforge. Yeah. So they fire a cannon into Sigmar, which is the name of the keep where they specifically reforge the Stormcast. The star bridges are powered by the spirit energy of the Stormcasts, who have died too many times to be reforged. So they have just fundamentally broken and cannot be put back together. So then they just power the star bridges.
So in other words, when you're useless, you become fucking foundation.
Yeah, everything about the Stormcasts has a purpose. Even their death and inability to be reforged has a death. And even their flaws and quirks and problems with them, I didn't end up writing anything about it because it's more getting into exactly what specific units they have, and that's sort of its own episode. But they, some of the abilities that they have, like a tangible aura of wrath, that is then utilized for a specific type of unit. And,
Yeah.
So a lot of units will utilize their flaws offensively, or it'll get them mostly put together in conclaves, which conclaves are coming up next.
Conclaves.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
So Stormkeeps are heavily fortified with artillery and magic wards. So they've just got cannons, and it said they've got statues of their greatest heroes, which will also fire lightning out of the sky.
Are the statues actually containing them?
I don't think so. But they also have smaller permanent keeps that are intended to be permanent that guard a realm gate until they can be reinforced and built up. However, they only ever hold one regiment of Stormcasts, and they get destroyed more often than they are able to be reinforced and built into a city. The master of the Stormkeeps are Lord Castellans, and they are masters of defense, and they keep the Stormkeep safe. And they just sort of mostly, for the most part, just exist in the Stormkeep. However, they will occasionally be sent out to war. So a regiment of Stormcasts is called a Storm Host, right? And they consist of around 5,000 to 10,000 Stormcasts. So different Stormcasts have different specialities, right? As I sort of mentioned earlier. They specialize in different stuff. Some of them are just straight up angels, and they have wings and they fly around. It's cool. But usually they get put together to create large sort of specialist teams. That team will function really well individually. But
I just imagine being a normal dude brought out of your fucking afterlife to fight in a battle that you didn't consent to. And there's just an angel there dude, come on, do your part. Stop being
imagine
lazy.
being a hermit that just lives in a thing. Every day you wake up and you look out your window, give the middle finger to chaos, and then one day you just have a heart attack and die. And then God shows up and goes, I like the cut of your jib, and then makes you a warrior for the rest of eternity.
Yeah, and then you're just what? It's just give baby a gun and off baby goes.
So yeah, they have these large specialist teams that function amazingly as a singular entity, but as a group, it's just a whole nother level. So Storm Hosts are so large, and they have to put out so many fires that usually they don't.
Why do they have to put out so many fires?
Everything is going wrong all of the time. That is how Age of Sigmar can best be embodied is everything is going wrong all of the time. So you've got, orcs are attacking over here, chaos are attacking over here, Skaven are attacking over here, death is attacking over here, and you just can't send an entire army to fight them all. You don't have enough people. So you have to send out their smaller little conclaves. Oh, sorry, not chambers. Your smaller chambers, which they will all fight autonomously. So the Storm Host as a whole is led by a Lord Commander. Lord Commanders and several other roles, they're designed to be non-combat roles, right? So they don't fight. they just command. But there is an expectation that at some point all of them will be sent out to fight. So all of them are very good warriors, because even if their job day to day is to sit in an office and command armies, inevitably they will be sent to the front lines. Because they're stretched so thin, they'll send out these chambers to,
So what are chambers, sorry?
So chambers are... I hadn't explained the chambers yet.
Yeah, and you just kept using it.
Yeah. So chambers are these small little groups of specialist units, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the whole storm host is made up of many chambers. And
So it's sort of like divisions.
Yeah, basically. And the chambers have their own hierarchy command structure, which then has the answers to the command structure of the storm host. But usually they are left to function autonomously. They usually are just go over there and then they'll deal with it and they'll run their own thing and they'll make the choices that they feel they need to make in the situations that they're in with how they do it. And that's how sometimes things get really fucked, where, a chamber is sent out to do something, but that entire chamber has lost its sense of morality and just massacres a whole heap of innocent civilians.
As you do.
Yeah. But they only fight as a whole storm host if things get really bad. Things need to go absolutely fucking tits up for an entire storm host to be sent out as one to fight a battle.
Alright, here's a potential explanation. So a chamber is just basically like fucking Iron Man, right? And when the whole storm host, that's the Avengers, has to get together, shit's fucked.
No.
Damn it.
Okay, so using the similar analogy, right?
Mm-hmm.
A chamber is the Avengers, and a chamber is the X-Men, and a chamber is the Inhumans, and the chamber is the Defenders, and Midnight Suns and all that. And a storm host is when Marvel does a massive event, and all of them need to come together to fight, Galactus, or currently it's all vampires. There's a vampire invasion, so they all need to come together to fight all the vampires.
There are vampires in 40k?
No, not in 40k. Actually, yes, there are vampires in 40k, but that's a whole other thing. This, once again, is not 40k.
You know what I mean. I'm equating it to when I talk about Warcraft, I'm talking about World of Warcraft.
In Old World, there was a vampire faction called the Vampire Counts. They don't exist in this, but there are vampire count units that exist within the factions of death. So vampires do exist within the factions of death, but they're not like a playable faction. They just have some units. But the whole vampires thing is a Marvel thing. That's what I meant. So chambers sizes vary depending on the unit type. So a chamber might consist of 100 Stormcast Eternals. But if it's Drake Guards, there might only be 30. The chamber of Drake Guards is 30 versus 100 for the Stormcasts. So chambers also become a surrogate family, because a lot of the dead lose memories of their family, and all the Stormcasts lose memories of their family and friends and all of that. So that sort of replaces that, and chambers have their own cultures, and even within the same storm host, those cultures could be wildly different, and they'll get tattoos to mark which chamber they're a member of and all of that, and a lot of their downtime is spent with the little bit of downtime they have with their chambers, and they don't really venture out from the chamber. But within that is conclaves, and conclaves are small squads ranging from 3 to 10 units, and conclaves have a unique mark for their roles, so the commanders only need to see their sigil to know what they specialize in and can send them to do that, including the obvious ones where Storm Drake Riders have a specific sigil, and you just need to look at them and be like, yeah, they're riding the dragons. I don't need to see the sigil to know they're Storm Drake Riders. They're on the fucking dragons.
So sort of like Star Trek shirts.
Yeah,
you look at their
basically.
sigil and you're like, oh, okay, you're in engineering, you're in medtech, that's it.
Yeah, except when they change the colours. Gold used to be command, and now gold is engineering. But Stormcasts can also form brotherhoods, which can break conclaves and chambers if they believe they're destined to achieve a goal and they need to make one to achieve that goal, so they can bring in anyone from any conclave or chamber. So like, we need one Storm Drake, we need 3 Vindicators, we need 2 Vanguards, and all of this to make one Brotherhood, and then that Brotherhood will go out and do its job, do its goal, and then once their goal is finished, they disband the Brotherhood and go back. Sometimes they stick around for a while, but inevitably they will break and go back to their conclaves and chambers.
So Brotherhoods are just basically raiding parties.
Yeah, so they've formed groups that temporarily exist. Yeah. And sometimes Stormcast can move across conclaves and are promoted in rank. So that's good that there's like job mobility. You can actually get a better job. This is like deemed if they decided that their skills are best used elsewhere. So, for example, if a Stormcast's entire storm host dies, and they manage to specifically hold off and fight an entire large of enemy and create defenses and do all of this, when they inevitably die, they'll go back to Azir and they'll go, okay, you're really fucking good at defense. You're now a Lord Castellan. You now are put in charge of a Stormkeep, and you need to keep that defended because you are wasted in your talent on this different job. But it also does mean you do have to die to get promoted. You can't just do something and then they go, cool, you got a new job. They're just like, well, you got to keep doing what you do until you die, and then you get the new job.
It's the ultimate prestige.
Yeah. So then, this is 2 of the different types of Stormcast units. There were a lot of Stormcast units that are so specific, where it's like, oh, these Stormcasts use shields, and these Stormcasts use hammers. That's their difference. But then there's like pages of lore about each of them. I didn't do any of that. I didn't read any of that. It was so much, and it was 1 a.m. in the morning, and I ran out of time. So there, I did get some that just stood out and were worthy of note, such as the Stormcast Vanguards, who are basically Stormcast's assassins.
Oh.
Their chambers go ahead of the armies and just set up traps in the wilderness, cut down enemy leadership, destroy back lines, and they just kind of have no interest in the rest of the Stormcasts. They don't have permanent bases. They don't stay in Stormkeeps. They don't go to Azir. They just hang out in the wilds. And, they respond to the hierarchy, but they're usually just left to their own devices, because it's understood that they're out there causing fucking chaos and just really... No,
they're not supposed to be causing chaos.
Yeah, but really keeping us defended against the enemies. So we only pull them in when we absolutely need them for something, or to send them out for a specific job.
Just imagining a little ghost assassin.
Yeah. They also when I say assassins, they're not quiet about it, where they're sneaking in and stabbing them.
So they just basically stumble into a successful assassination, the loudest thing ever.
They will set up some traps and then just do a brazen attack in the daylight. The enemies will try and retreat to regain themselves, walk into the traps, and all of a sudden half of them have been killed by falling boulders or mines or shit that they've set up. They're not quiet about what they do. Which also means people are fucking terrified of them.
I'd be terrified if a ghost assassin tried to kill me too.
Well, not so much ghosts. They are in shining metal armor with guns that fire like thunder and shoot lightning and stuff. But,
advanced ghosts.
You think you're good, and then all of a sudden you are under attack by some highly competent people who can kill armies that are 10 times their size. They have a real hit and run guerrilla warfare sort of thing going for them that really helps. Here's Che's history sidetrack. So during the Falklands War, right?
Oh boy.
The British utilized the Gurkhas. The British utilized them a lot during the British Raj. But then once the British Raj ended and they gave Britain, not they gave Britain its independence, gave India its independence, they still kept Gurkha regiments, so they still recruit Gurkhas from India, and you can, if you join them as a Gurkha, you get British citizenship. And they sent them into the Falklands War, and they were highly efficient, really, because they're boys that have been trained to be warriors since they're children.
Mm-hmm.
And fucking Argentina decided to foolishly do some not psychological warfare, but like propaganda, right? Where they portrayed the Gurkhas as inhuman monsters capable of slaughtering entire squads, and they eat and consume them, which was the dumbest thing they could have possibly done, because that meant
the troops.
Yeah, that meant all that like the Argentinian military needed to learn was the Gurkhas are coming, and then they surrender en masse, because the alternative is what they believe a violent death, and that is what the vanguards do. The vanguards are terrifying because
the oncoming storm.
Yeah, everyone is aware of their reputation, and that reputation gets them as far as they need to do. They don't even need to meet that reputation. People are just terrified of their existence.
It's literally like the Doctor, where it's like he's just established such a reputation that enemies are just like, no.
Yes, like Doctor Who.
You're welcome, chat.
The vanguards, also, obviously, very useful scouts, because that's what they do. And they scout around and find useful information, find useful like locations of realm gates that could be good for colonization and that, and then they send it all back to the Stormcast hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Which brings us to the next special unit that I've marked, the Sacrosanct Chambers, who are the Stormcasts. Instead of being sent to war, they instead stand guard at the anvil of Apotheosis, Jesus Christ. And they watch over the Stormcast as they are reforged, and they assist the Six Smiths, which are the dwarven gods.
Mm-hmm.
However, every now and then, Soul will just like go crazy and escape into the realms and become a lightning geist. And the Sacrosanct Chambers are then sent out to go catch them and return them. Or, if they need be, just kill them. Just like purge their souls and wipe them out.
Jesus.
Because they're these mad lightning demigods that just destroy everything in their way.
You won't understand this, but I'm just imagining the Avogadro.
Correct. I don't understand that.
It's a creature made out of electricity from Call of Duty Black Ops 2 zombies.
No. The Sacrosanct Chambers are vastly more magically powerful than regular Stormcasts, as they're forged differently. They're forged to be more magically attuned. And in their mortal lives, they were mostly wizards and shamans and people who were attuned to magic, and then got reforged to be more magically attuned, and then sent to guard the reforging. Their presence in the Anvil of Apotheosis helps diminish the rolls, the consequences of reforging. So them being there makes the fuck ups less, the flaws less and less.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So, Dwagons.
Oh, the lightning drakes.
Yes. Lightning drakes.
I remember you saying something about that.
The storm drakes, but there is also like a star drake. No mind. Yeah. So Dwagons, right?
Dwagons.
The extremist chambers, who apparently have their whole own battle tome. I don't know how you have a whole own battle tome for like 4 units, but sure, go off, I guess. They ride dragons. The Dracothian Guard ride Dracoths. They're not big dragons. They don't have wings. They look like horses, but if they were a dragon.
So that is what a dragon basically is. Little artist tip for you. If you're ever trying to draw a dragon, start out with the outline of a horse, then add the scales.
Sure.
So wait, were they taught by the dragon god that saved Sigmar? Or taught Sigmar? Because Dracothius.
This comes up very shortly. You have preempted my notes.
Hey, sorry I was paying attention. Fuck me, am I right?
Yeah, stop paying attention.
Why am I paying attention? I never do.
So there aren't many extremist chambers, but every storm host has an extremist chamber. Whether that be riding Dracoths or the much larger Star Drakes, who are like proper dragon-sized units. Where when you picture someone like riding a dragon, like Game of Thrones sort of style riding a dragon, that's a Star Drake. When you picture someone riding a horse, but it's got scales, that's a Dracoth.
Okay, so horse with scales, Dracoth.
Yeah. So every dragon is descended from Dracothian. They are all his children. And the idea behind the extremist chambers was to model it after Sigmar and Dracothian spawned, which is really cute. It's just like two best buds wanting their kids to be best friends. Like, Dracothian taught Sigmar everything he knew about the mortal realms, and then Sigmar's like, I'm gonna make my kids, and I want my kids to be friends with your kids. And Dracothian's like, you know what? That's a good idea. So they're just like really good friends, and like they have intense bonds together.
Just like the old Targaryens.
Yeah, so the dragon riders are picked by the dragons themselves, not
literally just like it.
Yeah, not Sigmar, not Dracothian, or like the Stormcasts. And the Stormcasts are almost never moved to a different chamber. So you know how I said like the Stormcasts move quite frequently between chambers if they're found to be better at something. If you exist as an extremist chamber, you will almost always be an extremist chamber. So dragons are sort of like in a similar state to Stormcasts, where they can't really die. When they die, they are just returned to Dracothian, and then he breathes them back into life. But with Chaos doing Chaos stuff, it's started to make that more rare. So a lot more dragons, when they die, they just die, which is probably what gets the Stormcast moving from like an extremist Stormcast moving to a different chamber, is if their dragon dies and it just stays dead. Yeah, so extremist chambers don't usually fight with the rest of the army. They usually come in with a more sort of shock and awe strategy, where once the battle has started, all of a sudden, you know, a large group of, you know, people come riding in on dragon horses, or dragons just descend from the sky.
Yeah, I'd shit myself.
Like, yeah, the Star Drakes, these are massive dragons that are coming in and just, you know, ripping shit apart.
Yep, nope, I'd still shit myself.
So, this was just like a little aside, is the Seraphon really like the extremist chambers. They're really fond of the extremist chambers. They don't really give a shit much about, you know, the Stormcasts or anything else the humans or elves are doing. But the extremist chambers, they're like, you've got the heart of the dragon. We like you. Because the Seraphon are all lizards, so they're all reptiles. So they also have an affinity for dragons. Which sort of brings us to the Stormdrake Guard, which aren't extremist chambers. They're explicitly different. They ride Draconiths, who are basically dragons. Like, so you've got the Star Drakes, who are dragons, and then you've got the Draconiths, who are dragons, and then you've got the Dracoths, who are the horse dragons, who the theory is they're just young Star Drakes, so they will eventually grow into Star Drakes. But the Draconiths rejected living in the mountains and didn't really like what Dracothian's whole thing was. They sort of just rejected it and founded their own whole empire.
With blackjack and hookers.
Yeah, with blackjack and hookers. And then Kragnos, the earthquake god, the living earthquake, they decide to imprison him and stop him, which they succeeded in, but it destroyed their entire empire, save for the two lords, who are the sons of Dracothian, and they fucked off on a self-imposed exile, separately from each other. They didn't go together.
And that brings us to Altharius and Omegon.
Yeah.
Damn it.
So then they have recently returned, but they gave the remaining eggs to the Seraphon. Like, so their entire empire was destroyed, most of them were killed, and they gave what little eggs they had left to the Seraphon, who then raised them. Like, they hatched them and they raised them and taught them of, this great empire that they once had. And they're kind of smug pricks, because all of these dragons, like even like the Dracoths, the horses, they're all sentient creatures. They can all speak. They can all like have language in their own language and stuff. And they're very much like, oh well, we were an empire once, and very obnoxious about it. And
sure, Grandpa, let's get you back to bed.
And they hate the Star Drakes and Dracoths, because while their empire was fighting and dying to save the world, the Star Drakes and the Dracoths weren't there. They just
too busy getting ridden.
Yeah, the Stormcast didn't exist at this point. They just stayed in the mountains and lived their happy life. This concept of like a lost civilization and a desire to reconquest it and take it back has led to very much like kindred spirits with Stormcasts, who are basically trying to do the same thing. Because the Age of Myth was, as I said, this glorious, beautiful age where art flourished and everything was great and everything was unified under these gods. And then chaos destroyed it all and they lost almost everything. And the Stormcast are trying to come back out and reconquer it and get it all back. Which is what...
Chaos destroyed their sandcastle, man.
Yeah, which is what the Draconeths want. There is a rivalry between the Draconeths and the Star Drakes, as I said, but it's very much a friendly rivalry, because at the end of the day, they're cousins. It describes them as being cousins. And they get along very well, but in battle, being around each other makes them fight harder because they want to prove they're the better one. So they like fight more, violently, viciously, because they want to go, no, actually, the Draconeths are better than the Star Drakes. Fuck you. We're gonna kill more dudes. Like,
no, I'm Daddy's favorite.
Yeah, like Legolas and Gimli.
Love that.
I think it's less I'm Daddy's favorite and more I'm Daddy's favorite. Well, Daddy's a fucking dick, isn't he?
Which is also accurate.
So this is the last bit of sort of lore for the Stormcast, and then the rest of this is history, sort of how we got to this point, what's been going on, all that, which includes information about the Stormcasts and what they've been up to. But this is just the last sort of how their society functions. Is the Stormcast train in the Gladiatorum, which was gifted to... I wrote in my notes, bifted. It was bifted to them by Malarion, who is the current name for Malakath, who was the leader of the Dark Elves during End Times.
Yes, just like in Thor 2. Seriously, why is Malakath such a Dark Elf name?
Games Workshop renamed a lot of their units so that they can copyright them. So the elves aren't ELVES, it's AELVES. So
elves.
They can dwarves are now Dwargi or Durgi, something like that. Lizardmen are now Seraphon. They renamed a lot of their units to make it, easier to copyright them. And Marathi, who's Malarion's mother, when she ascended to godhood, she's still called Marathi. But when Malakath ascended to godhood, Malakath, the leader of the Dark Elves, ascended to godhood, he became Malarion. And I think it is specifically because of Marvel's Malakath. They can't copyright Malakath because Marvel also has a Dark Elf called Malakath. So they needed to rename him so they can copyright Malarion. I think that's why they did it. I think that's why he changed his name. That's my just harebrained conspiracy theory. But it checks out.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to go against Marvel. They're already losing enough as it is.
Marvel's got Disney money. But to be fair, Games Workshop has Games Workshop money, which is a lot of money. There was a year that Games Workshop made more money than British Petroleum.
Jesus.
Yeah.
What was that, during COVID?
I think so. or it was like 2019. It was still weird. that they made more money than British Petroleum. But
Bah.
the Gladiatorum is a coliseum gifted by Malarion to Sigmar during the Age of Myth, and was used to wipe out the native beastmen and orcs of Azir. So they just used it to wipe
Genocide.
out populations. Yeah. Using shadow magic that no one really knows how it works. Like, none of the Stormcast know how it works. It can change its appearance to be anything that they wanted to. And it's a large part of why the Stormcasts are so good. They... because, like, you know, if they want to train in Gur, they can just make it Gur. If they want to train in Akshri, they can make it Akshi. You know, they can make it whatever they want it to be and fight in that. And once upon a time, when Stormcast died, they had to fight in the Gladiatorium to prove that they have maintained their skills. And it also apparently was sort of like a cathartic release of traumatic death of, I died a horrible, horrible death, and now I can work out that sort of pent-up rage.
I'm so sorry, but that just sounds like the gulag from one of the fucking Modern Warfares.
From their Battle Royale mode.
Yeah.
But this isn't really done anymore because they've been so stretched thin with everything going on. They don't have the time to have people show that they are still, like, capable of fighting. And this has caused problems in both they are now no longer as good at fighting as they used to be, and also, like, their mental health problems are now on a whole different level because they couldn't, like, take the time to decompress from the battle and sort of, like, work through themselves and get used to battle again. It was just, oh, you got ripped apart by orcs? That sucks. Have fun fighting the orcs again. Hope you don't get ripped apart again.
That's why we need mental health care.
Yeah. Fucking universal mental health care in Azir is lacking.
Well, I guess it's because they don't really have a brain for much longer than they do their souls.
Yeah. So, bringing this up, I think it was called, like, Sigmar's 5th law or 8th law, something like that. Bringing this
Thou
up
shalt
now
not be a bitch.
as a thing that they can't do anymore is expressly forbidden. It is against the law to mention Sigmar's law.
So
That was,
it's
like,
Fight Club.
making sure we don't fuck everything up.
It's literally just the Fight Club.
Yeah.
Rule 1, we don't talk about Fight Club.
Oh, why the fuck did I write this down here in my notes? The Sacrosanct Chambers are the ones that build the defenses in the Stormkeep. They also build weapons and wards for the Stormkeep, which for some reason is just at the bottom of my notes and not in the Sacrosanct Chambers section. Okay. So this is just sort of like a recap of all of the lore. So, like, a very loose recap of all the history that is surrounding the Stormcast Eternals leading up to the current era, which is the era of beasts, as it seems to be split within, like, several different eras. You've got your initial, like, Age of Sigmar. I think the second era, which was 2nd edition, was probably like the era of death or something, which was when the Necroquake happened and all of a sudden death was everywhere. And then you've got the era of beasts. Fuck it, I'm just gonna Google it. The Soul Wars. So at the beginning of the Age of Sigmar was the Realm Gate Wars, which had 3 goals.
1, realm. 2, gate. 3, wars.
My notes starts with lastly.
Lastly.
Which had 3 goals. Lastly was to capture as many realm gates as they could and fortifying them. Hence the name. Okay. Why did I say lastly? This is what happens when you write notes at 1 in the morning. So, like, it had its 3 goals, which was to capture as many realm gates as they could. Fuck up chaos so hard, they were forced to play defense and lost the ability to attack, and to forge alliances with the former members of the Pantheon of Order, most of which were elves, including dark elves, interestingly enough.
I thought they hated those.
Yeah, they were sort of chaos, sort of, in Old World, though they didn't really like chaos. It's a whole thing, and I don't know enough information, because I'm only my only real knowledge of the war comes from Total War. Of the lore comes from Total War in that regard. But the Dark Elves are led by Marathi and Malarion.
Who already gifted them the thing.
So the members of the Pantheon of Order are Alariel, an elf
Uh,
god, Grungni, a dwarf god, Malarion and Marathi. They are still in the Pantheon of Order. They haven't left. Sigmar, Teclis and Tyrion, who twins, and they were twin brothers in the Old World. Alariel was also an elf in the Old World, and Dracothion. There are some associated gods that aren't like really members of the Order of Pantheon, such as the Six Smiths. And then there's minor gods. The former members were Gorka Morka, the god of the orcs, Nagash, and
of course.
and then a couple gods who died, and one god called the Prince of Cats, who is currently missing. They don't know where he went.
The Prince of Cats?
Yeah, it makes sense that he's missing because you like to sneak.
Yeah, and as someone who owns cats, they'll come back in their own time.
So the Realm Gate Wars ended when Sigmar sealed his two gates that he had control over to the old points, so that people could no longer that chaos could no longer quickly attack it from their lands into Gurren and Ashby. This helped civilization expand and flourish freely, and they created many cities, the largest being Hammerhall, which was built around the realm gate in both Ashby and Gurren. So it's one city in two realms.
Holy shit, that's a big city.
Yeah, it's a really cool idea. Gurren is also
like one half is on one realm, the other half is on the other?
Yeah. So Sigmar's whole thing is the twin-tailed comets. So the idea is it's a twin-tailed comet city where it exists. It's a twin city in two locations connected either side. So Gurren is mostly like a realm owned by the elves. And it is the realm of life. The Jade Kingdoms used to be mostly controlled by Nurgle, is now mostly controlled by elves. But there are, Nurgle still in there. And there's, obviously humans and the like in there. The realms are like impossibly large, so they're not going to all be controlled by one thing, except obviously during chaos. For the most part, there were still free cities that had resisted chaos.
Mm-hmm.
So after the Necrocake,
hell yeah!
So after the Necrocake, which we discussed, was when Clan Ashen fucked up the ritual of Nagash's. Sigmar let the Sacrosanct Chambers out into the mortal realms because it fucked them up. Like, as I said, it didn't really do much damage to the Skaven, but for the rest of the mortal realms, it was all of a sudden, billions of undead rising up. It was really bad, and
why are there zombies everywhere?
Things went from bad to worse. So Sigmar let the Sacrosanct Chambers out into the mortal realms, which made the reforging side effects much worse. They were no longer being reforged as well as they could, so their side effects were more extreme, losing more and more of their memories, more and more of their personalities and emotions and all of that. Mm-hmm. But this also meant that they were sent into the realms in search of a cure, and they know what they're looking for, because they know the intricacies of the reforging process. They know how it's probably going to work. They are actively trying to fix it, and they believe the key might be in Shaish, which is the realm of the dead, or in the cursed skies, which I'll explain in a bit.
I'm already very lost.
I'm lost, and I'm reading my own notes. So Grungni, the god who helped create the Stormcast Eternals, in the first place, has since returned. He went out to venture around and learn and have a little bit of a journey, and has since returned. And learnt more about forging souls. So he's, forging them new weapons, new armor, like reinforcing the reforging process so it's a bit more effective and, they're stronger, more magically attuned and the like.
Mm-hmm.
I did the thing again where I wrote notes after when they're supposed to be talked about. Also, during the Necroquake, Sigmar sent Stormcast out to stop it, but then they ran into Chaos, who were there to do the same thing, and they just got caught in a battle. So that they did the Umbrella Academy thing of driving past each other and being like, oh shit, and just started fighting each other instead of temporarily teaming up to stop the thing they're both there to stop.
Yeah, sounds about right with these lot.
Also, like, if it wasn't clear, like, I was reading more about this, Nagash is explicitly a god. He's not just like, because I wasn't sure before where he was a god or like he was
Just
functionally a
chaos.
god, but like he was a lich or whatever. He is a god. He is a god of death.
Which
he
makes the
is-
soul stealing even more fucked up.
He is the primary god of death because there are other gods of death, and Nagash has killed most of them.
Jesus Christ.
He wants to be the only god of death, so when he moved to Shaish, he killed most of the gods of death in the afterlives.
Well, he is the ultimate reaper then.
Yeah. And also the Necroquake... Fuck, I did it again! The Necroquake just straight up changed how magic worked and made spells just show up from time to time. So you're just, like, chilling in a city, and then all of a sudden a black hole appears, eats half of the city, and disappears, and no one casts that spell. It just manifested naturally.
Big old oopsie doopsie.
The Necroquake, like, really, really fucked up the Stormcasts. They lost a lot of cities and artifacts of power and dangerous prisoners that were locked in magically sealed vaults that, once the laws of magic changed, they just were unlocked, allowing enemies to raid them all. And for every, like, city they defended, a vault was raided.
God damn. Nowhere is safe anymore.
Things were so rough during this time that for the first time, properly, Stormcasts just started dying. Like, actually dying.
No take backies.
Yeah. Whether their souls were intercepted by Nagash before they could be sent back to Azir, or
Well, Nagash has a right.
yeah, or they were so damaged from the constant dying and dying and dying that they just couldn't be reforged. Like, because they were being sent out, die, sent out, and they didn't have enough time, like downtime, to recover from their injuries, which was chipping them more and more. The Sacrosanct Chambers weren't there, so it chipped them even more. So they started dying, and that, in its own right, causes problems, because this unlimited resource all of a sudden is starting to become more and more limited.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to have an army of the dead when, the Grim Reaper himself is like, I'm seriously sick of this shit. You go to rest.
I will send you the trailer for the Skaventide box set, or the announcement, the Sigmar lied. It has this amazing shot of a Stormcast dying and Soul entering the afterlife, standing face to face with Nagash, who reaches out to grab it, and then it is launched into Azir. It's such a cool shot. But this brings us to the era of peace, where things were going bad, and now they got worse, and now they're getting even worse. So this is the current era for this week, and when this episode releases, will no longer be the current era as of about 4 days ago.
Oh boy.
So the Stormcasts got hit straight off the bat with a double punch, right? So Morathi came to warn them that Chaos was massing an army to invade Azir using the Realm Stone from the All Points to unlock the doors to Azir. They figured out how to unseal it. So Marathi and Sigmar sent their armies together as a preemptive strike into Archon's army to stop them. And during the battle, the Daughters of Cain, which was Marathi's army, stole all of the Realm Stone and then fled, just betraying Sigmar and leading to the slaughter of the entire Stormcast Stormhost. But Chaos trapped their souls. So they died. They all died. Well, that's the thing. They didn't even die. They are now trapped in the realms of Chaos, being permanently tortured.
Oh,
It's
lovely.
it's worse than they just died. They didn't get to resurrect, and they are now tortured for all eternity. Yeah. Then it gets worse. So Be'lakor, who is the first demon prince, and he kind of wants to become a chaos god, but he's got his own sort of thing. It also depends on whether it's old world, fantasy, Age of Sigmar, or 40k, because he also exists in 40k. Exactly what his goal is. He created the Cursed Skies, as I mentioned earlier, which are storms that roll through the lands and prevent souls from returning. They just straight up lock heaven, so if you die, you just die for good. Your soul can't return to heaven.
God damn, they got locked out of heaven for real?
Yeah, so Stormcasts hate fighting near the Cursed Skies.
Yeah, no fucking shit. That kind of supersedes that whole thing. It's like being surprised why Magneto wouldn't fight near a fucking just purely non-metallic community.
But the Sacrosanct Chambers believe that because it can ward against the souls, they might be able to use that magic to ward the souls during reforging and stop the corruption process. So the Sacrosanct Chambers specifically go out of their way to fight near the storms. They want to fight near the storms to learn how it works. So they are fighting all risk, like high risk, high reward. And if you die for real. If you die in the game, you die in real life. Whereas the rest of the Stormcasts don't want to die in real life if they die in the game.
Well, no fucking shit when there's goddamn chaos creatures tormenting them.
Well, I don't know if the Cursed Skies specifically trap them or lead them to being cursed, or if they just like go to the afterlife. One way or the other, it blocks them from going to Azir. Whether it captures them or just blocks them and the souls fade. So Be'lakor then proved his point of I can stop this by deleting an entire storm host called the Sigmarite Brotherhood, which like they had guides on how to paint that armies. Those were armies that you could play as. They weren't like a no-name stuffing army. So that sucks if that was your army. I guess like time to make a new one. I also
start to roll a new character sheet, man. Fuck.
Yeah. I also wrote in my notes the name for the different legions of Stormcasts. Don't know what that means. I don't know what I was going there for that. I just sometimes I write notes and they baffle me. I will never forget my note that just said executioner trying to sound cool brackets bomb ass. Don't know what I meant by that.
I don't know what you meant by that either. But then again, I'm not you, as far as I'm aware.
So, with Grungni returning, and forging new armors and weapons, and the return of the two Dragon Lords, which
Return
are
of the Kings.
Yeah, the Return of the Kings. The Stormcasts are actually finally starting to recover, and they're starting the Dawnbringer Crusades, which is a Reconquista. And it's doing well in the grand scheme of things. It's a lot of losses, but they've gone from constant losses to actually now having some victories under their belt and actually recovering cities or building new cities. But they, for every, outpost that they get, they lose another outpost. But it's getting better, maybe.
Ish.
That about does it for today's episode. There was a lot more that we could have covered for each storm host, but that we'll have to do for another time. Researching this was just sort of like a fucking nightmare of constant interruptions, and
Oops.
it wasn't you. It was just other life stuff, and just not have. I finished editing, and then it was just appointments, and all of a sudden being called to help people do stuff, and then
How dare they take my job?
it was a thing. It sucked. It was a miserable experience this week, but so I just kind of didn't have much time to really polish my notes and sort of have a coherent script. So it's a bit disjointed. And as I said, some of this was written at like 1 a.m, where I had been up since like 7 a.m. and was functioning off a coffee that I bought from McDonald's, and that was what
Gross.
carried me throughout the night. Um, this is also just the first episode that has been recorded after the release of the first two, and I just wanted to say a deep thank you to everyone who has watched. I was expecting to get like 15 views, half of which were from friends and family. Oh well, it obviously hasn't been like a massive success. It far surpassed anything I ever expected it to be, and it meant the world to me. It's been the happiest I've been in a while, and I've just been glowing the past couple of days. So thank you so much, and thank you to the few people that have seen comment on both videos, for sticking around and watching both. That's awesome, and thank you, Corgi, for being here and for the cute artwork that just really like ties the whole thing together and makes it
Thank you.
so much better. And thank you to my wife who made the thumbnails. I had an idea for the thumbnails. I made it, and it was fucking atrocious. And I just like went to her and was like, "Can you please fix this?" And she did. She also made the logo. She's great, and I love her. She's awesome, and it's really nice to have a professional graphic designer that I don't have to pay. Uh,
Yeah, when am I getting paid?
fuck you. Uh,
I knew I should have read my contract.
so thank you all once again, and I will see you next week with what's new in 4th edition, and then following next week we will be doing some 40k lore, and then
See you then.
returning again with Sigmar lore. Goodbye. Thank you so much for sticking around.